Hey guys, it's Sebastian the Sick Witch. I'm coming to you today with an intro to Wicca video. This is going to be the first of a Wicca 101 series I'm going to do. But today we're just going to start and kind of sum up what Wicca is, particularly for people who don't really know anything about it or are interested in exploring it. So, to start, Wicca in a nutshell is basically all about nature worship, working with the cycles of nature, working with goddess energy and our own inner divinity or higher self, healing the collective, expanding the mind, and taking charge of our own destiny. So if you've never heard of Wicca, or if you haven't had really any exposure to it, that pretty much sums up what Wicca is all about. Before I go any further, I just wanted to clarify what the difference is between Wicca and witchcraft. Witchcraft and Wicca are commonly confused, but they are not the same. Wicca is a religion, and witchcraft is a practice. Now, witchcraft is a really important part of Wicca, as it is the use of magic, manipulating the natural energies around us to create a needed change based on what our intention is. But because witchcraft is a practice, it can be utilized by people in any religion. Kind of like the way yoga is a practice, and anybody can use it. So, for example, there are Christian witches out there. There are Jewish witches, there are Muslim witches, etc., etc. To give you a sense of how those things could be connected, a good example would be for Christian witches, or for Christians in general, what could be considered magic could be something as simple as like praying with rosary beads, where, at least in my experience of being in a Christian family, a prayer or a phrase is usually repeated as you go through each bead. And it is with the desire for some sort of change, whether it be easing your own heartache, healing a loved one, whatever the case may be. And that's petitioning a higher power to help manifest that desired change. And so that in and of itself is magic and witchcraft based on what that definition is. So then you could see how witchcraft can really be adapted into any religious or spiritual practice or belief system. Wicca is an offshoot of the old European pagan practices that date back thousands of years. It's mostly influenced by Celtic paganism, and it is one of a number of sort of modern takes on paganism. Wicca in particular started in the 1950s by Aleister Crowley and Gerald Gardner, and those were two British witches, and I believe they took it to America in the 70s. So, although it is an offshoot of paganism, it is unique in its own way of we have specific practices, beliefs, and codes of ethics as Wiccans that set us apart from other pagan traditions. Wicca, the practice of Wicca, can be separated by branches for a number of things, like branches of culture. So there is Norse Wicca, and the practices that come with religious beliefs and higher powers in Norway among pagans. And there's Celtic Wicca. I myself am a Celtic Wiccan because I connect with that the best because most of my ancestry is Celtic. And then there are like a number of ways that you can practice Wicca if you want to stick to a sort of traditional, prescriptive way of what Celtic Wicca looks like, what Norse Wicca looks like, etc. That's fine. You can also mix them. You can mix traditions from Celtic Wicca using goddesses from Norse Wicca, etc. And people who mix traditions are known as eclectic Wiccans. I am an eclectic Wiccan, mainly because I mostly engage in Celtic practices, but I also incorporate Greek mythology in my practice, using Hecate and Persephone and Demeter from the Greek pantheon. And then I also have some Jewish mysticism and Eastern European root work from my ancestry that also impacts the way that I practice magic and approach Wicca. You can also practice in a group of witches called a coven, or you can practice and study the craft alone, in which case you would be a solitary Wiccan. And I am a solitary Wiccan. I am an introvert, and I also definitely prefer to do my magic and rituals alone because they're just very personal to me, and I just don't get quite as much out of working in groups. So, but all of that is up to you. Wicca is very up for interpretation for whoever wants to explore it. So now, some of the basic beliefs and practices in an eggshell, so I'm just going to go down some bullet points, and you can let me know in the comments or in DMs if there's something that you want me to elaborate on in future videos, or perhaps dedicate a video to it. So one thing that's very important to us as Wiccans is the idea of duality in nature and duality within ourselves, which creates balance. And so the duality could look like light and darkness. So like the sun and the moon, or our upper world self and what we show the world, and then our shadow self that we even hide from ourselves, that is sort of darker, more emotional territory. So it's our belief that there is an opposite to everything, and those things complement each other, and we have to take it all together. We can't just focus on the moon, or we can't just focus on the lighter and happier things in our life. We have to take it all in to have true balance. This also is included, though, with gender, with feminine and masculine being sort of binary. I personally have a bit of an issue with that. I don't honor the Lord and the Lady in my practice, which is kind of how Wiccans set up worship of the god and the goddess, and that balance of feminine and masculine. As a queer person, a non-binary person, I don't really get the whole, feminine versus masculine, like these are very different things, and it's binary. And there may be many of you who feel the same way. And I would say to just leave that up to your interpretation. Everything I'm telling you here and wherever you might read about Wicca, take what you like and leave what you don't. But one of the biggest things that you should accept and agree with if you are going to go on this path is the Wiccan Rede, which is basically our code of ethics. And it can mainly be summed up by: you can do whatever you want as long as it brings no harm to others or to yourself. And whatever you do, whatever energy you put out into the world, it will come back to you threefold. So it's a lot like karma, but times 3. We also, contrary to popular belief, we don't believe in good or evil, and we don't believe in the Christian devil. That's not a part of our world, our understanding of the world, our understanding of deity. Speaking of deity, we acknowledge everybody's gods, everybody's religion. We think Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, what have you, we think they're all valid, that all of our gods are real and all of our faiths are real. We do not take the approach of trying to be the right religion or convert. We also don't hold one deity above another. There is no ultimate Wiccan deity that's more important than the others. And it's really up to you who you work with and who resonates with you and matches your practice or your ancestry best. I'll talk about this more in future videos, but I do just want to put the suggestion out there that, maybe put some deep consideration into this choice. If, say, you are a white practitioner and you are fascinated by maybe voodoo deities or Egyptian deities, just think about that first. Think about that in terms of cultural appropriation and, if you really understand what you're doing. But technically, Wicca says you can work with whoever. We do not perform magic on anybody without their consent. And we also don't believe in hexing or cursing. That, I believe, is also up for interpretation, and I will go into it further in a future episode, that I actually deviate from that and think that hexing and cursing are okay in certain situations within certain parameters. And I think that Wicca has a bit of a distance from that need, maybe, to do protective and offensive magic, since it was started by two white cis-het men. So kind of keeping that in mind, again, take what you want, leave what you don't. We don't believe in predestination or fate. We believe that we have the power every second of the day to change our present and to change our future. And that would be through magic. That would be through using our will to affect the energies around us to create a desired outcome. And then a lot of what we do in terms of practice is we perform rituals of devotion to deity, to nature, to ourselves, that might include offerings, incantations, spiritual cleansing, just things like that. Yeah, I'm going to get into that in a future episode, to discuss more about what kind of rituals and magic we practice and the tools that we use to channel our energy through, like wands or cauldrons, things like that, like traditional magical tools. So, yeah, what do you think about it? If you're interested in learning more, or if you are excited for these next videos in this Wicca 101 series and wanting to get started, I would recommend checking out Scott Cunningham's 2 books about Wicca. I believe one is called Wicca and the other is called Living Wicca. It's a very easy read that is super informational and has everything you need to know in there to get started with Wicca and everything you need to know about the religion in general. I also really love the book, what is it called? Casting a Queer Circle, Non-Binary Witchcraft. This is also an intro to Wicca book, but I would specifically recommend it for folks who don't resonate with the goddess and the god, the feminine and the masculine. this book makes Wicca more easy to digest for non-binary, trans, and queer people. So I definitely recommend that. Now, if you're looking to, get your feet wet with Wicca and witchcraft, in the meantime, between the time that it takes for me to make these videos, I would recommend a few things. First, if you take nothing else from this video, I want you to take and to perform connecting with all of the elements in your everyday life. So this doesn't have to be magical, this could be mundane. For example, you connect with the fire element by lighting a candle, or by getting the body heated up by doing exercise. You can connect to earth by sitting outside on the ground, using a stone or a crystal. You can connect with air through breathing exercises and through lighting incense. And you can connect with water by meditating in the shower or the bath. And also simply blessing the drinking water, the water that you drink. And you can do that by just putting your hand over the glass of water and say something like, "Blessed be." Blessed be is something that Wiccans say very regularly, but if that feels weird or sounds weird rolling off the tongue for you and doesn't really resonate, you can charge it with a certain intention or say whatever feels good to you, like, "May this water cleanse my body from the inside out." Something like that. And so trying to get into that habit would be great. I also think it's important to start cultivating daily self-awareness, because that's going to be important when you are doing spell work and intuitive work. So much about witchcraft is us enhancing our minds and expanding our horizons and empowering ourselves. So I think a good way to get started with that is to either establish a daily meditation practice or a journaling practice, or both. And because Wiccans celebrate the full moon of every month with ritual, I would also recommend getting familiar with the moon phases, and maybe through your meditation or your journaling, noticing if there are any patterns of the way your body feels or your mind feels based on the moon phase. That's going to be a helpful habit for you to get into anyway as you embark on your path and work more with the moon. I also would recommend that you start researching deities now. Popular Wiccan deities, Celtic deities, Egyptian deities, Native American deities. There are hundreds to look through, and they all have, their own purpose. There is a goddess or a god for everything you can think of. So I would just kind of get curious about that and explore that now, and see maybe if somebody speaks to you, if there is a deity that you want to work with or one that you've already had been thinking about, maybe do more research on. And lastly, I would start exploring and maybe looking for books or asking me even about parts of magic or Wicca that you're most interested in. Basically areas of study. So for example, maybe you want to start looking into tarot or crystal magic or banishment rituals, or just like whatever interests you, whatever kind of comes up when you think about witchcraft or Wicca, whatever maybe that you see on my page or in these videos that interest you, that you think you would enjoy in your own practice, I would encourage you to explore that a little more, just to see if maybe that's going to be an important part of your practice moving forward, and just to try things out, So that's it for today. That is Wicca in a nutshell, and how you can get started for now with this little nutshell. So you guys let me know what you're thinking, if you have any questions about anything I've said, if there's anything that you'd like me to elaborate on, or if there's anything specific you'd like me to address in future videos or make a video about. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be putting out a video about my personal practice and what that looks like, my personal beliefs. And then I'm also going to make a video about the Wheel of the Year, which is the holidays or the Sabbats that Wiccans celebrate. So yeah, I'm excited for this series. I hope you guys are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.